they only give so few hours to humanities students is just appalling. Never thought I'd be making this video, but I feel like it's a video that needs to be made. So I'm going to talk about UCL, University College London, and I'm basically just going to give like an honest review type thing and my opinion, experience, and what I did that I shouldn't have done and that you probably shouldn't do either. Review is going to consist of 3 parts. So part 1 is going to be academia, part 2 is going to be facilities, part 3 is going to be socialisation. And before I say anything and people like attack me for it, as if anyone's going to watch this. This isn't a slamming video. I'm not trying to slam UCL, I'm not trying to discredit them, I'm not trying to shit on them, alright? So 1, academia. I'm probably not the best person to talk about academia at UCL because my subject wasn't as academic as others. I did English literature. But at the end of the day, it is 8th, well, now it's the 14th, but when I entered a year ago, it was the 8th best university in the world. So I do have some sort of idea about the kind of teaching they do there. And 1, I'd just like to say that the actual quality of academic material and academic teaching which they give you is very, very good. There is no doubt that every professor at UCL is of the highest academic standard. They're not just professors, they're academics at very, very high levels. They know what they're talking about. It's high standards there. However, that said, although the quality of teaching and the teaching material is very high, it does need to be pointed out that in the humanities overall, so it's not just English Lit or languages, it's the whole humanities department, so your histories, your arts, all of that, the contact hours are minimal. By contact hours, I mean the time you actually spend in contact with your professors, so your lectures, your seminars, all of that. It is minimal. And I know this because I lived with a history student and an anthropology student and I think a languages student, if I remember correctly. And the one thing that we all had in common, aside from the fact that we did humanities, was also that we were at uni maximum 10 hours a week. 10 hours may sound like a lot, but after you've just finished doing A-levels and you're at school 5 days a week, you know, you've got every hour timetabled because you've got to study, and then you've also got to have room for like life, you know, if you have one, that is. Can't relate. So yeah, the contact hours are minimal. These hours were primarily distributed between Monday, Tuesday and Thursday with an occasional tutorial. So it would be like, I don't know, 4 hours Monday, Tuesday, and then 2 hours on Thursday. And this would be lectures and seminars. Outside of this, you were expected to do extra reading. Obviously, I had to give in an essay every 2 weeks, and I had a tutorial every 2 weeks, a half-an-hour tutorial. So that was that. Now, this abundance of free time may seem like an advantage, and for the most part it is. But what I would like to say is that if you tend to procrastinate, if you're not good at self-discipline, if you don't know how to set a routine or a schedule for yourself, then maybe don't do humanities at UCL. I just think if you're doing any kind of humanity, sort of like English languages, sort of, you know, the artsy, not to offend anyone's subjects, then I think you should be very passionate about it in order to do it at university level. But of course, there's different levels of that. And at UCL, you have to be incredibly passionate and incredibly self-disciplined and self-motivated in order to truly succeed on a humanities course. Let's get onto facilities. So, I mean, central London, what more could you want? The sheer architecture of UCL buildings, like the main quad and the cruciform and the library, is amazing. Like, you enter UCL and you can't really process that this massive thing is just bang on in central London. It is beautiful, the quad is lovely, the grounds are lovely. The only, not really issue, but inconvenience, I would say, is that a lot of the campus buildings are dotted within like a 1 kilometer radius of the main quad. So you're gonna be doing a lot of walking. However, there are lots of libraries. I believe I've not even been to all the libraries that they have at UCL. I've been to the main one and I think another slightly smaller one, but lots of libraries. They're all very efficient and very digitalized. So you've got your own, like you check your own books out, and then there's loads of facilities. So I think you can loan a laptop. You can do all your basic printing and your computers. Everything is there. Everything you could possibly need. And in addition to that, the IT department that comes with the libraries is very extensive. So, I mean, they haven't processed my withdrawal application yet, so I could probably go and access the library, but I don't need to. Additionally, if you need places to study, there is the student centre. I think it's been built a year before I came, so I think 2017, I want to say, 2018. And it's basically a 4-floor building with loads of common areas for you to sit, study, Wi-Fi everywhere, there's a small cafe and a basement with meditation and shower rooms. Don't know why there are shower rooms, but you can shower there if you want. In addition to that, in terms of actual studying space, you can also obviously study in the libraries, but I will say that at peak times and at exam times, you will not get space in the library. So if you want to get space, you got to come there like 7 a.m. sharp. Classrooms are spacious, clean, everything, even if it's like a relatively old building, the inside of it will most likely be freshly refurbished. They'll have aircon, they'll have heating, everything, the actual cleanliness and standards of the facilities is there. If you're one to like food, aka me, I mean, I wasn't eating back then because I was on keto, but it's fine. Obviously, it's central London, so even outside the campus, you've got like every cafe you could possibly think of. You've got deliveries, you can go out to a swanky restaurant on your lunch break, whatever. And on campus itself, if you're always on the grind, you can be sure to find loads of eateries, little cafes. I think there's a cafeteria, and like, I would say convenience-wise, UCL is very, very good in that way. Now, since I'm talking about facilities, I should probably cover the accommodation and the halls and things like that. I mean, I don't really think I'm in a place to judge UCL halls because I've been to very, very few of them, and I happen to be in the cheapest one. All I'm going to say is that it's London. You pay for what you get. So if you're paying less than, I would say, £150 a week, then you're probably going to end up in Ifer Evans, uncatered, and sharing a bathroom with about 30 other people. But obviously, if you're paying above £200 to £230 a week, then you can get like an ensuite and a nicer room, nicer halls. And again, this just depends on your budget, but I'm pretty sure every university, in terms of the accommodation, you can't pay for what you get. All right, number 3, socialisation/integration. UCL is known for its abundance of societies, the sports teams, the camaraderie, all of that. And I've got to give it to them. I think there's about 300 plus societies. There's a society for every interest. I think there's like a Pokemon society or some shit. And they're very extensive on that front. However, about the societies, I do think a lot of them are very overpriced for what they provide. So for example, me being an avid sportswoman that I am, I joined the hockey society, and I just feel like £75 a year for a membership is a little bit fucking rude. No, but I had all the equipment, I brought all my crap, I attended every session, and then to charge me £75 on top of the accommodation fees, on top of the student fees, on top of everything you've already paid is a little bit unfair. And by a little bit, I mean like really fucking unfair. Considering if I was playing for like, I don't know, the National League or like a high level elite sports team, it could be understandable, right? But I believe in a membership fee, it should not be that high. And you don't get the money back if you drop out. Additionally, with societies, especially the sports societies, unless you're doing it at a relatively high level, so you're like in the first sports team and you're like at the level of representing the university and competing with other universities, and you're not at that elite level, it's not really taken that seriously. So I mean, I played hockey my whole life, but I was never like super magically good at it. So I was placed in the last team, which I think is a little bit fucking unfair considering there were people there who have never held a stick in their life. And once we were playing a game of hockey before this party, and they just started doing, oh, take a swig for every goal. And I mean, I'm all for having a bit of fun and, you know, all of that. But I thought at the moment, like, I came there to play hockey. I didn't want to drink. And this is the third issue. And I don't know if this goes for all universities or just UCL, probably all universities. But I found that they were really, really pushy with the whole, like, wild drinking student stereotype. And if you weren't drinking, you did feel a degree of pressure if you were on the outside not drinking. And so many of the bonding activities were fixed on drinking. And I appreciate that alcohol can be a great tool in bringing a group of people together. What if I've got an early lecture the next morning? What if I just don't want to ingest the substance? Why should I have to feel pressured to do that? You know? So this fixation on alcohol and partying kind of killed like the joy for the actual sport for me, because I wasn't doing it at a very high level at UCL. I still wanted to play hockey, you know what I mean, even though I wasn't doing it at a particularly high level. So that's that. Outside of the societies, the student union are great in the way that they host loads of events, so you probably will find something you like. The LGBT society hosted, I think, a massive monthly party with drag queens and all of that. And I went to that. I thought it was pretty good. And I just think in general, if you genuinely find a society with your people, not to fall into the cliche, but you know what I mean, and you stick with it, unlike me who dropped out after 2 months, then you probably will enjoy that social aspect a lot more. Now, dropping out. So I finished my first year at UCL doing English Lit, COVID struck, and I just started my second year, opened Dickens, opened Victorian literature, started crying and thought, fuck this for a laugh. Now, this wasn't like a spur of the moment decision. It was building up. I just ignored it. But my first and most crucial mistake was chasing rankings. Even back in sixth form, when I was applying for universities, I didn't go to the university for the university or even for the subject. I was just blindly chasing rankings in hopes that getting into this universities would magically open some employability doors, which, spoiler alert, it didn't. And I didn't really fully know what I wanted to do. So I just went down the easiest path I could find, which was English literature. And I knew that if I applied some effort, I could probably come out with a pretty good degree. After that, there was no life. I didn't really think about the future after the degree. It was one goal after another. So 1, get the A-levels. 2, get into Oxford. I mean, I messed up my Oxbridge interview pretty damn bad. So UCL it was. Secondly, as cliche as this sounds, try and find and establish not only your learning style, but your behavioural patterns as a person. So do you work better when you're left to your own devices? As in, are you good at self-discipline? Are you good at being organised? That sort of thing. You've got to establish these things before you look at the course. The abundance of free time, because as I said, 8 to 10 contact hours leaves 100 plus hours a week of free time. It was overwhelming. I just didn't know what to do with it. So if you're someone who works better with a more structured approach to learning, then maybe look into that. And no one really, I suppose I didn't research, but no one really told me, either on the course spec or anywhere, that UCL is quite so individualised. So I was not prepared to come out of the structure in terms of time, the structure of A-levels, to this just floating through time and space. And can you really blame me? Like, At the time, it was the 8th best university in the world, so I think I'm right to expect a pretty fucking intense timetable. So imagine my surprise, I turn up, oh, it's 8 hours a week. That makes each contact hour, lecture or seminar, cost more than £500, right? And then with the strikes and COVID and everything, I could go for 2 months without having to attend university during term time. But my point is, the value for money is not a concept in London, full stop. And that applies to UCL as well. And before I knew it, I was spending more and more time at the gym. And by more and more time, I mean like 2 hours a day, 6 days a week, cardio on top. And then suddenly I've done my level 2 gym instructor certificate and I'm halfway through my level 3 and it's like the middle of the second term. So I was at a crossroads here because a part of me was like, oh, you know, Val, maybe this whole like reading thing isn't really for you. But then the old part of me that was still rank chasing and was like, no, we're going to get through this. We're going to get our first. We're going to like open all of these employability doors. I don't even know what doors I was trying to open. Like, because of this small amount of contact hours, you don't really get that many chances to get to know your actual course mates. And unless you're fortunate enough to have been put to live with them in the halls, you're kind of stuck with your hall mates. And mine were a lovely bunch, but like we have different lives, we have different timetables, we go to different parts of UCL. So of course the room for bonding is quite, well, I suppose if you're an extrovert and you're actually good at making friends, then you can make it work. However, if you're an introvert like me and you're put into this position, it becomes very, very difficult to not become emotionally isolated, and you have to put a tremendous amount of active effort into building this support network around you, because UCL can be a very, very lonely and very, very isolating place. And the fact that I was rank chasing and that I started to hate English isn't UCL's fault at all. However, they are to blame for their failure in engaging the student body, because the thing is, I believe that with the amount of resources they have and the amount of money they rack in, like, it is nearing billions. That's how much these people are earning per year. And the fact that they only give so few hours to humanities students is just appalling. And of course, it's understandable that in the humanities, in the arts and humanities, it is important to know how to think first and foremost, because you don't want to just be regurgitating what your professor says. But for a first year, it's good to teach students how to think. But at the same time, I didn't pay 9k to sit in my 2x2 room and think. In my second year, when I first started, when I just thought, I don't need this. I really don't need this. It's not benefiting me in any way. I'm not engaged. It's not interesting. I've lost whatever passion I've had for the subject, whatever little passion I've had for the subject. Think about these decisions, you know? Really, really think about it and do your research. It's fine to rank chase, but before you start chasing ranks, you've got to make sure that you've really got what it takes. You've got to be passionate enough about your subject, whether it's medicine, whether it's law, whether it's art. You have to be passionate about it. You can't just be driven by the potential prospect of a high-earning job or whatever. It's very good to be driven, like financially driven, and it's good to have ambitions to lead a lavish, highly comfortable lifestyle. But if you're actually not interested in what you're doing, it's not going to end well. Like, subscribe, do what you need to do.